Warm greetings, good people. We meet once again. We are looking at a new chapter which is called production factors. We have four production factors that we will check. We have the first one, which is the business of the day, which is land. We will also check the second one later, labor, followed by capital, and then we will close it by management, which is the one that coordinate and combine all the three factors. Okay, fine. When we look at this one, which is land, there are a few things that I want you to note when you look at land. One, you must be able to talk about functions of land, economic functions of land. We say identify the functions of land. One, in this case, be able to list the functions of land. Two, you may be given a statement. In that statement, or else in a form of an example, and then you will be recognized to match that statement with any of the 4 or 5 functions of land that we will talk about. We will also look at economic characteristics of land. We must be able to list, you must be able to list economic characteristics of land. Two, you may be given a statement again, and then you will be asked which economic of characteristic of land is this one. Or else in an exam you may be given a paragraph, a scenario, and then in that scenario they may say identify or indicate economic characteristic that is there in the paragraph or else in the scenario. Another thing that you may do, you may be given maybe a picture, or else you may be given a graph, and then you will be expected to identify that economic characteristic. Or else you may be given a table. You will also be asked to identify it. But when we look at the presentation, you will see how easy it is to identify them. We have to also talk about ways or methods of increasing land productivity. We know that when for example, when we plow, you must make sure that you get a high production or high yield. So we will look at the different methods on how to increase the productivity of land. Let's first look at the economic functions of land. One, we have the first one whereby we say land provide food for both human and animals. Land will directly or indirectly provide food for human and animals. What happens that there are plants in land. Those plants, they will be eaten by what? By animals. And it means animals directly benefit from land. And we can also eat the animals that have eaten the plants, we as humans. So we can say the first function, land provide food for both human and animals. Let's look at the next one. Provide space for agricultural activities. There are farms where we plow. There are farms where we plow. So we use that land or we use that space for what? For agricultural activities, for different agri activities. Even kekli is also raised there. We plow crops, it's also on land. So number 2, provide space for agricultural activities. It is a source of minerals. There are mines. In the mines we get what? We get minerals from land. You have your gold, you have your silver. It is used as what? To generate money. So we can say that one it's provide source of minerals. You also have phosphorus and other potassium. Those minerals comes from land which will be used by plants and animals as their nutrients. So we can say it is a source of what? Of minerals. We can also say land can be used as a collateral. What do we mean by a collateral? A collateral, we say this is a form of security that is needed by a bank before they offer or they give you a loan. So we say it can be used as what? As collateral. We'll talk about this term when we talk about agri marketing. So before they give you a loan, they can require something as a collateral, and you as a farmer, you can use what? You can use land as a form of security before they offer you the loan. We can also say it provide space for human settlements and industries. The growth in population, it results in more houses being built. And where are those houses built? They are built on what? On land. We also have industries. In this case of industries, we can also add schools. We can also add clinic, hospitals. All those industries, those companies, they are built on what? On land. So these are the economic functions of land that we have. Provide food for humans and animals, provide space for agricultural activities. It is a source of minerals. It can be used as a collateral, and then it provides space for human settlements and industries. Okay, fine. While we're still here, let's check something. Let's say we have this one. They say the flow chart below represented the characteristics of land as a production factor. It represents functions of land actually. Let's check what are they saying here. You have to match this flow chart with the functions of land. You match the A, B, C, and D. Let's check what we can have here. It's Porsche's gypsum mines. I want you to take note of mines here. Remember we said in mines we get what? Minerals. So which economic function of land is this? We can say it provide, or it is a source of what? Of minerals. You also have B. B, they talk about maize, they talk about meat. It means there is food there. There is food there. So we can say it provides food for both humans and animals. You come to C. You see cropping fields, cattle ranging pastures. There are crops, there are pastures there. So it means that is a space for what? For agricultural activities. You also have houses, schools, and factories. Houses are built for people. So it means it provides the space for what? For human settlements and also industries. So that's what we can check when we look at this one. But let's see whether we understand it in a nice way. A, we say source of minerals. Yes, we were right. We say it provides space for human and animals, which is B. C, provides space for agricultural activities. Yes, we were right. And then B, provide space for human and settlements. So this is just an example of how can questions be asked in an exam. But in some cases they just say list 2 or 3 functions of land. So be able to list them. If you can just master a minimum of 3, you will be safe. Okay, fine. Let's get to this very important part. Let's look at economic characteristics of land. I want you to make sure that you follow each and every argument that we will have here. We have the first one. Land is subject to the law of diminishing return. They like to ask us about this one. Land is subject to the law of diminishing return. What do we mean by this economic characteristic? We simply mean here, we simply mean when a farmer adds a production factor while keeping other factors constant, what will happen is that the yield of the land will start to increase. When the farmer continues to add more production factor, the yield will reach a maximum production potential whereby now the production becomes constant. And when the farmer continues to add that production factor, then the production will start to decrease. So when we look at the law of diminishing return, we say once you add the production factor, we use fertilizer as an example. If you add fertilizer, the production will increase. When you keep on adding, the production factor will no longer increase, but it will become constant. And in that case, we say the land has reached its maximum production potential. So there's no need for you as a farmer to continue adding. But if you continue adding with an aim that maybe the production will increase, instead it will start to decline. So we put it in three ways. You add fertilizer, for example, the production increases. You continue adding, it reaches a maximum production potential, whereby we see that it is now constant. You continue adding again, it no longer increases, instead it declines. That's when we talk about the diminishing return. Hence we call it what? The law of diminishing return. That's how we try to understand it. But then let's look at it. We say, in this way, I have put it in this way. The law of diminishing return states that if you continue to add one production factor while keeping others constant, you will reach a point where the output per unit is the production output, where the output per unit of the added variable starts to decline. As we have seen, that you add, it increases, and then it will start to be constant, whereby it reaches the maximum production potential. And if you continue adding, what are they saying here? They are saying it will start to decline. Hence we say it is the law of diminishing return. Let's look at it in this way. Let's have this graph. What I want you to see, we will also look at in another slide. In this graph, let's say the input is fertilizer. So they have added fertilizer. Then this is our production, or this is the yield. Let's say you add 5 bags of fertilizer. The production increases. You add the 10 bags of fertilizer. The production increases. You continue adding 15 bags of fertilizer, the production increases. But if you look at the level of increase, it gets lower as you keep on adding. From 5 to 10, there's a sharp increase. Or from 0 to 5 or 5 to 10, there's a sharp increase. But when you go to 10 to 15, now the increase is low. So if you check, in A, there is yield increase. In B, there is quick or faster increase. But when you check C, the increase of the production is now getting slower. Okay, fine, we'll come back to that one. But what I want you to notice that the more you add the fertilizer, the more the production increases. But then here we have reached 15 bags of fertilizer, and then the farmer continue to add the fertilizer. And if you add 20 bags of fertilizer, what happens to the production? The production no longer increases. We can say here it has reached a maximum production potential. The land no longer increases. The land no longer increases, as you can see here in D. The land no longer increases, or the production of the land no longer increases. So we can say here, the land has its maximum production potential. In this case, we say an increase in inputs no longer results in an increase in the production or in the yield. So an increase, if you check here, take note of this part, an increase in inputs does not result in an increase in yield. So what does it mean? It means you will have high input cost because you have added more fertilizer here. You have high input cost, which does not result in an increase in yield. As a result, you will no longer get a profit, but you will get what? Less profit compared to the point whereby you were adding 15 bags of fertilizer. And then we can add this part. We can make this one our E and say here, maybe we say now the land production starts to decline or decreases. That's how I want you to understand this part in a very simple way. Let's have a look at it in this way. One, in A, you can see that the production increases, there is increasing yields. In B, there is more yield increase. As you can see, it's faster in B. The increase is faster the more you add the fertilizer. But in C, now the increase starts to be slow. Yes, there is increase, but it starts to be slow. Then it has to tell you as a farmer that the land is about to reach its production potential. But what happens in D? The soil has reached a maximum production level or a maximum production potential. And then I said to you, this one we can say it's our E, whereby we say in E, what happens to the production? We can say production decreases. Production decreases. So it's very important for you that as a farmer you know when to stop adding the fertilizer. Hence we say there is a point whereby the production will start to decline. Okay, fine. What does it say to a farmer? This means that the farmer can deduce that an increase input is not in proportion to increased production. The fact that you add more inputs, it does not necessarily mean that you will get more production. So you must know when to stop adding more inputs. Hence we say that an increased input is not in proportion to increased production. Okay, fine. Let's use this one. What you must check here, in A, the production increases, the yield increases. But when you look at B, in B, take note of this one, you can even take it down. In B we say, an increase in input does not result to an increase in production or in yield. This results in high input cost not matched by increase in yield. Then this will result in reduced profit. That's what will happen in what? In B, because we understand that in B the land has reached its maximum production potential. So even if you put more fertilizer, the yield will no longer increase. Instead, you will use more inputs whereby you buy more fertilizer while their production no longer increases. As a result, you will get what? A profit. Then here, this is the diminishing return that we talk about. This is the diminishing return that we talk about, whereby we say the land production starts to decline. That's how we can easily understand this part. We can also look at it in this form of what? in this form of a graph. When we look at it in this form of a graph, they say the table below shows the amount of fertilizer applied and the quantity of potatoes produced on a piece of land. What happens here is that the more the farmer puts the fertilizer, what happens is that in bags of fertilizer there was 0. The production of potatoes was 18. It increased to 2 bags of fertilizer, production increased to 25. If you go to 6, the production of potatoes is 28. Let's look at this part. 8, what is the production? It's 29. The farmer continued to add 10 bags of fertilizer. What happens to the production? It remains 29. What does it mean? It means now the land has reached its production potential. If maybe he can add 12, you may find that the production will now start to decline and go to 27. So we can say here, this is the law of diminishing return, whereby an increase in the input is not proportional to the increase of the output. So that's the simplest way we can understand it. We are done with that one. Make sure that you understand it. But most of the time we use the example of fertilizer. If we try to look at this one, agricultural land is limited. Sometimes they say it's availability of land. We say availability of arable land is limited. With this one we say the land that can be used for farming is getting lesser and lesser. You have to ask yourself a question: why the land that can be used for farming is getting lesser and lesser? One, it may be because of an increase in population. The more the population size increases, what does it mean? It means these people will have to build houses. And where will they build their houses? They will use the land that is used for what? For agricultural purposes. So in this case, we say the agricultural land is limited because the land that was used for agricultural activities is no longer used for that purpose. Instead, it is used for different reasons. And then in this example that we are saying here, we are saying it can be used for what? For building what? For building houses for the people because of the increase in what? In population. It's not only houses. We can think of industries, because the increase in population, it means people will require work, jobs, and then it means we have to build industries so that these people can work. We can also think of what? Of schools. The more the people increases, it means that more schools must be built. Even clinics. So that the development that will take place, it will result to a decrease in the land that can be used for what? For farming. So that's how we try to understand it. So in this case, we say former agricultural land is used for what? For settlements. We can say it's used for what? For industries. It's used to build schools, to build clinics. But the main point is that this is caused by an increase in what? In population. Even if it happens that the land becomes mountainous, it means it is now limited, because it is no longer used for what? For farming. It is not suitable for farming. Hence we say the arable land decreases. That's how we understand that the land is agricultural land is limited. That is number 2. The first one is land is subject to the law of diminishing return. The second one is agricultural land is limited. Let's look at this table. The table below shows the population size and available arable land in certain region over a period of 6 decades. This is the table. What is happening is that if you can check, the population size increases. When the population size increases, what happens to the land that can be used for farming? Arable land available. The population size increases, and then this one, it decreases. So we can say here there's an increase of population size, and then here there is a decrease of what? Of arable land. Then you can come across a question and say, which economic characteristic of land is this? We will say it's what? Its agricultural land is limited. Why you say so? That's the question that you will get, like it or not. You say it's because the land that is used for farming, the arable land available, is decreasing due to an increase in what? In the population size. That's the simplest way to understand this one. So make sure that you understand it. Agricultural land is limited. What makes it to be limited is that the land that was previously used for farming is no longer used for farming. It may be used for different reasons. Maybe houses are built there, industries are built, schools, clinics are built there. It's no longer used for what? For farming. So that's how we easily understand this part. Let's quickly look at this one. Land is fixed. This one is very easy. We say Land is immovable in a simpler way, meaning there's no way you can take land from from one position and take it to another position. So we say land is fixed. They used to say the land that is used or that is good for farming specific crops is far away from the markets. That's how they put it. They say good fertile soil that is needed for growing specific crops, it occurs or it found in places that are far away from the market. Hence we say land is fixed or land is immovable. Let's quickly move on. Land is durable. In this case, people will simply mean that the land that was used by our great grandfathers can still be used by us in this present time. The land is durable. Hence we say a farmer still produces cotton on land that was used for the same purpose by his grandfathers. The land has high durability. Land has durability. The land that was used by our great grandfathers can still be used even now and produce more. We also have another one, indestructible. Land is indestructible. Land is indestructible, we say. In this case, there's no way land cannot be destroyed. That's how we put it in a simpler way. Land cannot be destroyed. We simply mean a farmer experiences a drop in production due to monoculture, whereby you're plowing one and the same crop season after season. And after changing to conservation farming, the yield started to increase. The yield started to increase. So we can say you cannot destroy land. Yes, at the beginning you may find that the production is not as the one that we're expecting, but the more you plow, it will start to gain its momentum and then produce more. We will look at another characteristic that is linked with this one, whereby we say its value appreciates over time. Its value appreciates over time. The value of land increases over time, unlike machinery, which loses value over time. We say the value of land appreciates or increases, unlike machinery that depreciates. So we say the more you use land, it will give you more production, but making it a point that you don't add more fertilizer, which will lead to diminishing return. But the more you use land, the value of the land will increase. Not as same as the one which is machinery, whereby the value of land depreciates. The next one we say land has its specific environment. We say a specific type of soil which is found in a specific environment has fixed characteristics. So it means this type of soil will only allow certain type of vegetation or certain type of crops that can be plowed there. You cannot go to a certain area and say, I want to plow this crop. You have to first check whether that crop good for that type of soil before you plow. So that's what we check in this one. Then the other one we say land varies in production potential. The production potential of land is not the same. Production of a certain region is not the same of another region. Even one farm, the production of a certain plot is not the same to a production of another plot. We say soil varies from exceedingly fertile to poor quality, resulting in great differences in the production potential. That's what we check. I want you to be able to master all of this. One, we talked about land is subject to the law of diminishing return. With this one, most of the time they use fertilizer as an example. They will say an increase in the application of fertilizer is not proportional to the yield. They can use any yield, maybe maize yield or potato yield or what. But once you see that they used fertilizer, an increase in the application of fertilizer is not proportional to the yield. You must know that they talk about the land is subject to the law of diminishing return. Make sure that you take it. Again, they can give you a graph, the graph that we checked there. Still, they are talking about it. They can give you the table whereby there is fertilizer and the other part. You must know what they are talking about. Make sure that you master it. Agric land is limited. We talked about the fact that you find that the land was previously used for farming. It's no longer used for farming, but it is used for what? For maybe there's a construction that is taking place there, and even construction of road, can also be applicable there, whereby we're farming here, but then they decided to construct road where we're farming, so we no longer have a space for farming. So we look at it in that manner, but make note that it starts with the increase in population with result to the construction of human settlements. We say land value appreciates over time. We talked about this one. We say land is fixed. We talked about this one. Land varies in production potential. It's durable. The land that was used by our grandfathers can also be used by even us at this point of time. We also talk about indestructible of land, whereby we say even land cannot be destroyed, even if there can be poor farming practices. But once you start to use the land wisely, it will give you more production. We also talk about the fact that it has its specific environment, whereby it requires specific crops or specific vegetation. Okay, fine. Let's talk about this one. Let's try to round it up by looking at this one. Increasing land productivity. When we look at increasing land productivity, we say one, you have to improve soil fertility. You have to improve water management, whereby we talk about water provision. In improving soil fertility, we talk about addition of fertilizer. You have to change cropping practices, whereby you do double cropping, you also do intercropping. We have to restore land potential, whereby you do amaconto lines or amaconto banks, or you use the stone paths. We have to also consolidate uneconomical units. You will see how we do that when we get rid of the small plots, and then we plow in one big plot. We can also talk about multiple use of land, which is which is diversification. Let's talk about this one. Improving soil fertility. It's use of fertilizer. You just add fertilizer there, and then the fertility of the soil can be improved. We can also combine grains and leguminous crops. Remember that leguminous crops, they have bacteria in the roots, the bacteria that can be used to fix nitrogen. So these legume plants will result in the increase of nitrogen, or the increase of nutrients in the soil. Hence we say it will lead to improving soil fertility. You can also do green manure can also be planted to improve soil fertility and soil structure. So that's what we can talk about, whereby you will then turn over, before harvesting, you turn over the green manure. It will add nutrients on the soil. But one, just know that during improving soil fertility, you add fertilizer. Then we can have different methods of adding the fertilizer. Let's improve water management. In this case, we can link it with water provision. Water provision, whereby you talk about what? Irrigation. We say here, this can be enhanced by improving soil organic matter and making use of water harvesting and water conservation practices. You make sure that you save the water that you have. Or else we can bury pipes to reduce the damage and leaks. So we want to make sure that we don't waste water. So we say improving water management. But make sure that you are able to list it. We can do changing cropping practices and farming systems. In this case is the one that I highlighted and say change to multiple cropping and intercropping. You have multiple cropping or double cropping, whereby you have plants, you have crops that you can plow in summer and crops that you can plow in winter. You also have intercropping, whereby whereby you use you plow two crops at the same time. Maybe you have your maize and you also have what, beans at the same time. You change the cropping practices and farming systems. Restoring the land potential. In restoring the land potential, we say this can be achieved by halting soil erosion. You prevent soil erosion, for example, by constructing stone paths, whereby you find that there's that fence whereby we have the stone paths which will prevent soil erosion. And also you do contour lines. They help in preventing soil erosion. Let's have this last one. This last one is whereby we say consolidation of uneconomical units. It's whereby you get rid of the small plots and then you just use one large field, whereby a tractor can be used in plowing that whole field instead of plowing small plots differently. In this case, we say have one big field that is large enough to use a tractor on, than to have the area divided into number of fields that must be prepared by hand. So instead of having, in this case, instead of having small different plots, you can just make these plots one big field, whereby a tractor can just plow this one once. It's also save in the cost. But if they are small, it means the tractor has to plow here, go to this one. But if you consolidate these uneconomical units, it means you combine all these plots to be one field. Make sure that you understand it in that manner. Sometimes you can get a question whereby they say, what are the scientific methods of increasing land productivity? You can pick the use of fertilizer, whereby you improve soil fertility. You can pick the water management, improving water management. You can also pick the changing cropping and farming practices, if they talk about scientific methods of improving land productivity, and wise use of pesticides. That's what you can pick. That's what I wanted you to understand in this matter. We will look at labor, we will look at capital, we will look at management. But before we look at that, I will try to get some few questions that we will do together in order to see whether we're able to understand everything here. 3 things that we have checked, although we have went deeper in this. We look at the functions of land. We look at the characteristics of land. We look at the ways of increasing land productivity. So make sure that you look at all of that. I do believe that you will be assisted, good people. Thank you for your precious time. I will come back with another lesson.